Good evening, Ruck On Show podcast listeners. Tonight, I'm excited to have on another guest, a really good friend of mine, Charles Fierstine. We worked together for a short period of time, and he has since struck out on his own, starting DWYL, Do What You Love. Um, and yeah, I'll let him kind of fill in the gaps and introduce himself. And really excited to dive into a topic that he brought up that I've been thinking about a lot. And so we're both going to kind of share our insights on visualization. So Charles, take it away.
Hey, thanks so much, Joe. I appreciate you having me on the Ruck On podcast tonight here. And as far as your introduction, fantastic. Thank you for that. Will is just like you said, a platform to help people do what they love, right? Just like you're doing with Ruck On Fitness, something that is a passion of yours, a hobby of yours. I want that to be more accessible for people out in the world, right? I also want to make it affordable. You and I both have worked at an agency, and we know, the kind of effort and, work required to go into a successful small business. But a lot of people who have a passion or a hobby or a startup or a side hustle, they don't have the accessibility or the funds maybe to work with an agency directly. So I aim to bridge that gap and kind of offer business coaching, business tutoring services so those individuals can learn the skills required, do the work themselves, and really, set themselves up for a sustainable lifestyle by doing what they love.
I think that's I think that's awesome because like you said with Ruck On, that's what I'm trying to do. And like I said, that, and we've talked about this ahead of time, but the reason we really wanted to hop on is you posted not too long ago about visualization, and it's something that actually has been brought up on a couple of other podcasts that I've listened to, and so I've been thinking about it quite a bit, and so I thought it would be a great opportunity to kind of share my thoughts, get your insights as well. And yeah, so I guess because you posted it, what, I guess, do you have a good example of like when visualization worked, I guess might be the best way to put it. You can.
Absolutely. So I think one is visualization is a moving target for me, right? Because visualization is something for me that you're looking forward into the future. We can do that in a lot of different ways, right? I think a lot of us
Mm-hmm.
right now are looking forward to Christmas and visualizing what we want those moments and memories with our families. But so I think there's visualization in many different ways, but when you apply it to business or when you apply it in any way, really just as a strategy, you gotta have a goal in mind and be able to explicitly see what that entails, right? A lot of us see physical items, right? Or success, but for me and the people I work with, I want to see more of a lifestyle or a mentality of happiness and just, fulfillment. And so I think, when you're able to see what that looks like for you and have that self-awareness, then you're able to map your actions to that end goal.
Gotcha. No, I think you have a really good point. I me personally, as I've been thinking about visualization, I kind of look back and I realized that I have I came up with kind of two examples of visualization kind of playing out in my own life. One of them being um, getting into West Point. Um, as I was growing up, I would tell people, I mean, from the age of 3, first start talking, like first start remembering things, people would ask, oh, Joe, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I literally, from the age I was 3, I would tell people that I wanted to go to West Point and I wanted like to serve in the Army and be an Army officer. And so I think, over the course of 15 years from being 3 to, being 18 and, graduating high school and, being at an age of going on to college, that was 15 years of me like putting it out that this is what I want to do. And also what I've kind of realized too, looking back, is I did the things that were necessary for me to make that a reality. And it kind of led me to coming up with kind of this equation for, visualizing and realizing that visualization and its belief plus actions equals results.
Absolutely.
And so just, as I got older, I knew that to get into West Point, I had to, had to be smart, had to get good grades, had to be, fit, athletic, and possess some sort of proof of leadership potential, whether it be, involved in extracurricular activities or, being a sports team captain. And so much of my youth was kind of focused around those things, like getting good grades in school. I played hockey from the age I was 6 all the way on up. I was involved in Boy Scouts. I became an Eagle Scout, all things that like needed to be done, needed to happen to have a chance. Yeah. And so that I think is a very, like, that was very concrete and kind of easy to see. The second one I think is kind of interesting when I look back on it, because it was kind of like a snapshot moment of like, maybe not necessarily the actual visualization of it, but kind of like years of visualizing situations similar led to like a spontaneous like outcome.
Right? An epiphany.
So sort of, but I think what's kind of neat about it, or what I thought was neat about it, is there were people that witnessed it that knew what was going to happen before I knew it was going to happen. And so when I was I think it was like a sophomore in high school, I was selected to be in like our hockey league's end of year all-star game.
Nice.
And yeah, so we were playing, and it was, like a Friday night. It was like 7, 8 o'clock at night. So the place had 2 ice rinks. So we were playing on one, and there was like a disco night, like public skate on the other ice surface. So it's a lot of people that were like my age, a lot of like middle school, high school kids who were there, and they're like, oh, like this hockey game's going on. So there was like just lining like our rink, like watching our game. So it ended in a tie, and it was going to go to a shootout. And I remember there's some kind of back and forth between my coach, who was, one of the assistant coaches for our all-star team side, about like whether or not I should shoot, or, let one of my other teammates, kind of have a chance in the spotlight. And the entire team was like, dude, Joe, like, you're shooting, like, go. I was like, okay, all right, like, I'll do it. And I just remember skating out to center ice, and the puck was there, and I remember just kind of doing like a quick scan of like, holy shit, that's a lot of people. And I remember I got to center ice, looked down, saw the goalie, and I just like hunched over for a second and just like went black, like closed my eyes, and just like everything just tuned out for just half a second. And I like popped back up, and I went down, and I did kind of like my signature, deke at the time, and like scored. And
Did you
It,
do it how you visualized it, or were you more just visualizing the puck in the back of the net?
it was it was funny because I hadn't visualized, like I said, I hadn't visualized that exact like occurrence, but you know, my dad had kind of introduced me to visualization and stuff. So like before almost every game, and even on days where I wasn't playing, like I would visualize going into the corner and delivering a big hit, or various instances of like having the
As,
puck on my
as all
stick.
young,
And
as all young athletes do, right? All the cool
exactly,
stuff.
doing all the highlight reel stuff. So um but it was just what I thought was funny is like I think in that second where like everything went dark,
Mm-hmm.
like that was the moment, because like after the game, like my coach said, I knew exactly what you were going to do. Like as soon as like you started skating, I was like, I whispered to the other coach, like, he's going to go forehand, he's going to go backhand, and he's going to score. And then even later after the game, my mom was like, as soon as you bent over, I knew you were going to score. And I don't know. Like I said, it's
We get those
just
instinctual feelings as a collective of individuals, right? And like you
yeah.
say about someone else, I'm sure, whether it's your favorite sports team on the show, and it goes both ways. You're like, oh man, no doubt, like he's gonna hit a home run, or it's one of
And
those things like he's not gonna catch it. We're gonna lose the game. We're just not gonna win. You know what the outcome already is gonna be, and it's
and
so
it's
crazy
funny.
that
Yeah. And it's funny because now that you mention it, I think of another time uh, when I was a freshman at West Point. I was in the stands this time at an Army football game, and
mm-hmm.
up to that point, Army football team is not very good, and so most games we're probably going to lose. Um, and we were playing a really good Air Force team that season, and I just remember there was one play that uh, like they threw a pass, and even though the guy caught it, like one of our linebackers just like smoked this guy, just like as soon as he
Oh
caught the ball, just leveled him. And
yeah,
I was like, we're going to win this football game.
yeah.
And I mean, we like score kind of went back and forth. I think we were down for like most of the game. And then like somehow miraculously, like they ended up pulling it out at the last second and we won. And I was just like, yeah, knew it.
Fantastic. Yeah, those are
So,
always the fun ones when you win.
oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, it's gonna be one of those kinds of games too, you know.
So, um,
What do they call the Army Navy game? What's that big one called? It's a big rivalry, right?
yeah, and that's just it. It's the Army Navy game.
Oh, that's it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you
So,
were at West Point. What kind of at a prestigious place like that? What kind of skills did they provide you for visualization? Because you talked a lot about how you got to West Point, right? From a young age, you were 3 years old and wanted to work your way there. But what did that look like once you were in school, and maybe how did that compare to once you were out of the academy?
well, I would say they kind of gave a lot. They gave a lot of tools that were kind of available, and it was more or less kind of how well do you or do you not use them. Um,
Yeah.
and actually, I think it's kind of interesting because I look back and I had such a clear picture and visualization of myself getting into West Point, and what I didn't do was kind of like, okay, well I'm in that that visualization that I've had for so many years, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
here, I'm in it now.
Yeah.
And what I did not do very well was over the course of 4 years was very clearly define, okay, well what's the next one? What's
Yeah.
what's like what do I see, maybe not necessarily 15 years down the road again, but still like what do I like when I graduate, like, what does that look like? You know, what, and so looking, you know,
but
I'm not sure
when
regret. What's
they're
that?
not sitting, when they're, teaching those skills, they're not sitting you in a room and having you listen to Tony Robbins, right? Or anything like
No.
that. Like, mindset, things like that. But, is it more in the training of it? Is it something that they do talk about mindset a lot? Like strength of, strength of will, sometimes is what it's referred to or thought of. I'm just curious, do they spend more time intentionally talking about it, or is it something that you pick up as a cadet just through life experience?
I would say more you pick it up just, I would say maybe as a byproduct of the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what is emphasized, especially in the military aspect, is planning. Planning, strategizing. And, I can remember various, like, especially in like later military science classes and stuff, where you have to sort of plan out, a mission and stuff like that, or during the summers and like field training exercises when you're actually doing it, kind of for real. You kind of need to be able to visualize, a certain end state that and kind of planning for contingencies along the way.
It's a micro visualization. It might not be what
Yeah.
you life in 3 to 5 years, but it's, what you need to do for that mission. That I think micro visualization is really important for things like when you're building a business, task to task, right? You got to be able to first 8 episodes of your podcast, right? First, before you can think about what they're going to sound like at episode 100. Because if we're trying to judge ourselves what we want to sound like at episode 100, or what these other guys are, doing on episode 100, we're never going to get off. So I think that's really cool that you have those micro visualizations in the academy, and planning is a huge part of it. I think I'm glad you mentioned that. Visualization would be a big part of any plan. You got to see where you want to go to create a good plan, right, along the way.
Well, and I think something that they is not intentionally do a good job of is you do need to be able to visualize, but it also, I think the environment that you're in also forces you to realize that the path to get you from where you are to what you're visualizing may not stay the same. It may not look exactly. And so they really, like I said, this is especially like on the military side of things, not necessarily academic, but the enemy will always has a say, has an input, and obviously, and when you're building a business, enemies not shooting at you, but enemies can pop up in any number of ways.
It's easy in digital age, so you've always got to be thinking ahead, knowing what you're visualizing of your success and what you want to do for your business and brand. You got to be aware of what the enemy, right, the competition is doing. Because sometimes you're going to get good ideas. Sometimes you're going to get reminded, oh, thank goodness I'm working harder than those guys. And sometimes you're going to have a really good example of where you can aspire to be. I think there's always something to take out of observing what the enemy or the competition is doing in response to.
Absolutely. What about you? Have you had any, I guess, kind of example, I know you played lacrosse, and so I don't know if you had any similar, or, just a good, clear example of, how visualization played out in your life.
Absolutely. I think the biggest one for me is just wanting to be happy in my relationships and in my life, right? I think that's something that I've never had a dream career, really. Growing up, I never had the moment at 3 years old that I knew I wanted to be an Army officer. I wanted to be everything. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a Coast Guard pilot. I wanted to be, fire guy, everything in between.
See, that's me right now.
Yeah, right. But for me, and that's the cool thing about what I do now, though, just a quick aside, is that
Yeah.
I get to help out so many different kinds of businesses. And I get to work with all kinds of different types of business owners and help out many different kinds of verticals. So I get to get my feet wet in all of them. And I get to bring what I'm good at, which is, selling to a market or, monetizing your hobby or doing what you love. And, I get to help those small business owners bring in my skills, and they still get to do what they're so passionate about. So I think that's just a fun part of what I'm doing now is getting a wide variety of different businesses to work with there. But I think the big thing besides, just having a happy life and having my relationships, which is going great so far and hopefully it continues to be. But the most recent, visualization 3 to 5 year plan that I've kind of had is with DWYL actually. And the fact that it's manifested and become what it has is it started as just like an idea, a fun, quirky idea, probably a little over a year ago. And it's just something over time that I thought more about and having an idea of what I wanted to be. I didn't even have a perfect vision. I think that's the other thing of it is that, you can have some idea. I think a lot of us, we get stuck in these ruts because we feel bad because we don't have a visualization. We don't know where we want to go. And I think, to pull yourself out of that, just get an idea, really tune into what you're, happiest doing, what what elements of what you're currently doing, bring you joy, and then focus on those things, right? So for me, that was what DWYL was over years. It was kind of a hazy vision of what I wanted to be. And then one afternoon, just on a car ride, with Amberly, my partner, we were just having a conversation, and it just manifested. I love teaching people new things. I love what I did, and doing marketing and creating websites and, all the things that are relevant with creating a successful online small business. Mm-hmm. And it made sense to run something that I could provide accessible education, video sessions, to people to help them do what they love, right? And so I think that's something that it's manifesting. I don't think it's manifested yet, but right. It's also, like I talked about earlier, it's a moving target. So every day I think of something new for people. And every day, even in my daily tasks, I try and visualize what I want to be done for right? To be able to tackle those micro visualizations. But you still got to stay agile. It's like the military told you with the enemy. That's and I think by having a solid visualization of where you want to be, every kind of obstacle that you might do, or every kind of question that you're presenting, or every challenge that you might be faced, or transition that you make, you have the grace to know where you're going and where you want to be, and it can help give you the confidence to make those hard decisions, which I think is really important. That's a big element as well.
You can kind of frame those things in the context of, okay, well, this is where I want to end up. So this is what needs to happen kind of in the here and now.
It's never a straight line, but by having a North Star, right? A guiding compass, you can at least not, prevent yourself from going back in the other direction, right? Which is the worst thing that you can do when you're trying to make progress in everything.
That is very true. Well, Charlie, can you tell everyone how to kind of, before we wrap up, I want to make sure that people know, where to find you. But I guess if you have any kind of like final thoughts, or I know we kind of discussed some stuff, before the podcast. So I guess if there's anything, that I missed or that you want to.
That's the last thing that I want to make sure that people understand from my perspective with visualization. What's important to remember is visualize what you want, not what others want. And I think that's a big thing caught up into, is living up, in the idea of dogma or other people's dreams. So I think it's really important to keep in mind what's most important to you, right? And what's going to lend you the most happiness. And I think, if it's going to school to be a lawyer, that's what you want to do, great. But if you're only doing that because that's what mom and dad want you to do, or, if you're only doing, going to the gym because you're told to, right? You've got to buy into it no matter what you're doing. So when you're going to make a visualization, visualize what you want for you, and don't do it for other people, because you're going to find a lot more success executing on it when you're doing what you love, and not what others do.
Yeah, no, I don't think I could have said it any better than that. I completely agree. But yeah, so how can people follow what you're doing with DWYL? Get in touch with you, social media, what have you. Like I'll definitely be including like links and stuff, but
start there. You can also find my podcast on Spotify, which is the DWYL podcast. love to have you on sometime, Joe, and kind of
Definitely.
dive into more of this. I love getting your insights from your background and different perspectives. And then in addition to that, my website, youcandwyl.com, DWYL.com. And there you can find all of our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube as well. So if you're just looking for some great resources, if you're building a small business of your own, we're all about just delivering free value-add content, just like Ruck On Fitness does so well. And if you need extra help outside of that, give us a DM anytime, send us a message, a text, call us, whatever. We're here to help.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you having you on, Charles. Thank you so much. It was a great conversation. I look forward to being on your podcast.
Awesome, Joe. Thank you. Have a good one.